Hello and welcome to this Networking 101 video series. I'm Matt Witmer from Brody Precision, and in this introduction video we'll break down what the internet is, what the cloud is, and go over a little bit of the OSI model. But before we do that, we need to define what an Ethernet network is. So an Ethernet network is just a means by which data and resources are shared between like devices over Ethernet. What is Ethernet? Ethernet is our base layer. It's our physical layer that's being used in an Ethernet network. Typically, an Ethernet network is made up of several parts, including cabling, network interfaces, switches, and routers. So if we look at our diagram on the right here, we have our network interfaces that are in our end devices here at the bottom. We have a switch, which is allowing all of those end devices to talk on the same network. And then we have a router, which allows our disparate networks, our WAN, our internet side, and our LAN, our local network side, to talk to one another. So we have a basic idea of what an Ethernet network is. Well, what is the internet? The internet is essentially just a massive Ethernet network. It's a web of routers and devices that are networked together at a huge scale, and it's best exemplified if you look at something like a traceroute, which is a way that you can look at the network traffic between you and a server or a device out on the internet. What you do is you open up a command prompt, you run this command, traceRT, and then you type in the domain name or the IP address of the server that you want to get your routes between. And when you run that, you get a list of the routers that your computer will go through in order to get to that server, in our case google.com, which is this IP address. So when I run that, I have 11 routers that are between my computer and the outside world, and that server that's running google.com. And basically what all that's showing in our case here is that, we're not thinking about it, but there are many, many routers and many, many networks that are being connected together between me and the server that I'm trying to connect to that's out on the internet. So the buzzword that we hear the most nowadays is the cloud. And what is the cloud? Well, the cloud is essentially just the internet. But for our use cases and our purposes, the cloud typically refers to physical servers that are running in a data center that are managed by someone else. A lot of the time, they're going to be virtual servers that are running on those physical servers, and examples of those are Amazon's AWS, or Amazon Web Services, their EC2 product, and Microsoft Azure's Virtual Machines product. Both of them allow anyone to create an account and open up or start up a virtual machine that are running on Amazon or Microsoft servers in an Amazon or Microsoft data center anywhere on the planet. So if we back up now, back to our Ethernet side of things, now that we have a general idea of what the internet is, what the larger picture is, we can look at something like the OSI model. And the OSI model was developed to give us an idea of how communication systems are laid out. And if we look at it in terms of an Ethernet network or a IP network, you get something like our table here on the right. So the OSI model says that there are these 7 different layers, and they start at the physical layer. The physical layer, for our case, is the hardware and the cabling. Second layer is our data link layer, and that's where our MAC address and our VLANs are going to live. The third layer is the network layer, and that's where our IP addresses live. The fourth layer is the transport layer, and that's where TCP and UDP packets live. Fifth layer is the session layer, and that's where ports live. Sixth layer is presentation, and that's where SSL and encryption happens. And the seventh layer is the application layer, and that's where your physical applications live, and that's the layer that's the closest to the end user. So things like HTTP, Fox, your platform, and BACnet IP all live at application layer 7. So that does it for our first video in the Networking 101 series of videos, introduction. The next video will look at some hardware on the wired side of things. So stick around and thanks.